To order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for August 11th, 2015. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and Commissioner Planzer is participating by telephone because of geographical separation. Are there any comments or objections to the agenda as it was amended today to cover an FAA grant acceptance?
No. No.
Hearing none, it is adopted. You have before you the minutes of July 14th, the meeting of July 14th, 2015. Are there any comments or corrections?
There are no corrections, but I had a couple of comments, and Mr. Rafter just indicated that on this handicapped or disabled parking, van parking at the airport was still being looked at, and that will be, but that was my question, and I found out the answer already. It's on page 4 or 5, the last page. Commissioner's comments.
Okay, thank you. And is that your only comment?
That's my only comment, yes,
Right.
that it is being looked at for the public to know that it's still being looked at.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? This has to be a roll call vote because we have somebody who's not present. Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo, and the chair votes aye. I will call to order a public hearing to consider a proposed change to the rates and charges. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the ratification of the warrants. We have two warrants to ratify, July 22nd and August 5th. Is there a motion to ratify those warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. I will now call to order a public hearing to consider proposed revisions to the 2015 rates and charges, which are part of the packet. Mr. Rafter, would you please explain what the proposed change is?
There are a number of changes, mostly housekeeping, but there are some other significant ones. There's one that we added the Islander aircraft for signatory landings because we have an operator that's operating the Islander airplane. We clarified the freight landings for signatory operators that they will pay the signatory landing fee. We're recommending the waiving of the ramp fee for aircraft under 6,000 pounds with the purchase of 10 or more gallons of fuel. You'll see in your packet there a number of some written concerns, complaints that have been filed. I had a number of pilots verbally speak to me and request some reduction, so we think this is the best alternative, and we would recommend that be considered. We've also identified the lost token fee for the parking lot is now $20. That was on our last iteration, but unfortunately it didn't make it into the final copy, so we just want to clarify that and put it on there. Also, we are in receipt of the white paper from the subconsultant on the master plan, which identifies some other potential
Why don't we get into those later? Okay, because we really, the public hearing is just about the ones that are, the changes that are proposed.
The only other change, I believe, was that we removed the seasonal tie-down fees. We'll take them on a case-by-case basis, but there's been no demand, and it just really gets it. It's not a simple thing to come up with a daily or seasonal rate, if you will. So we're going to continue the practice that we do right now of an annual rental for tie-downs.
Thank you. Do any members of the public wish to speak? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Does the commission have any comments?
I might suggest that we consider holding the public hearing open and continuing it to, just for discussion, the next meeting to discuss the recommendation.
Let's have another public, I think we should have another public hearing because we can't implement this without closing the hearing.
Sure, that's fine. I can agree with that.
We'll come back to those in a minute, but
Okay.
I think we want to
That makes sense.
we want to put this in place, right, Mr. Rafter? And
If we can, yeah.
It
we
makes
can-
sense.
yeah.
I agree.
So, all right, well, then take a vote.
Well, I would make a motion
I'm sorry,
to
yes.
adopt the rates and charges.
The proposed changes.
The proposed changes for the rates and charges as presented by the airport manager and listed on the draft. It's been provided to us.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Biscarin. Any other comments? Mr. Biscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye.
Thanks.
Is there public comment at this time? All right, we'll move on to pending matters. The formerly used defense site status.
There's a meeting set for August 17th with the Army Corps of Engineers to address the debris pile. It's the remaining pile of trees and limbs on the FUD site. And we're also working to try to have the Army Corps accept responsibility for Stockpile X, which, as you remember, was the dirt that was removed from the FUD site onto the airport and where the munition was found. And the Army Corps has been in touch with us, and NOAA's providing them some information to try to move that forward. So we're hoping to see some good progress there. We're also attempting to try to get the amendments with the two tenants finalized. I had some correspondence this week with Jesse Dutra to clarify some, hopefully, last final items on it. And once that's done, they should be ready to execute the amendments, and we'll bring that back to the commission, and that's ready to go. Well, do you have any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you. Yeah, did you have one, Ann?
At the last meeting, there was a discussion about getting the Congress involved or whatever to get them
Yes.
to take some responsibility. Did any of that happen? Did we have
Yes. Senator Markey's office was contacted, and I believe
Excuse me, Andrea, can you hear Tom?
Yes, I can hear.
Good, okay.
Senator Markey's office was contacted. One of his aides was out on a medical. He came back. He reached out to me. I gave them a summary of bullet points and things, that background on the subject, and I believe they have contacted the Army Corps, and that's why the Army Corps has reached out to NOAA to get some information to build our case. So yes, Senator Markey's office is supporting us on this.
Thank you.
Okay. General fund repayment, is there any further?
No change on that, no movement on it.
Carbon neutral program.
In your packet is the staff's recommendation to essentially divest ourselves from the carbon neutral program. I believe it's all explained in there. I can read it out loud however you want to do it. But the latest decision was that we could not be categorized, as the land could not be categorized as brownfield, and therefore would not put us in the position we needed to be for the SRECs. So again, it just did not improve the financial outlook on the entire program. I think we have gone above and beyond, and we made a very good faith effort trying to do this. We're going to continue to try to, continue towards the efforts of carbon neutrality. What we would like to recommend is that the Commission consider giving approval for us to go forward working with the town on the land that we designated for solar, such that if there's a viable project, that could be used for the solar project. I think it makes sense for the town to do it. They're bigger than we are. They probably would have a better benefit. We would do a simple land lease or something like that. But it's just, the mechanics are not viable right now in terms of the financial picture. So I believe there's language in your packet that what we'd like to request, that we continue the pursuit of solar. Well, I guess what we're looking for. Let me read this entirely.
I think the highlighted sentence that begins therefore is enough to read.
Therefore, staff recommends that Nantucket Airport elect to decline to enter into a contract that would incorporate such risks, which election the airport is authorized to make in its sole and absolute discretion under Section 1A of the Technical Audit Agreement. Staff recommends continued pursuit of solar PV development on the area identified for such purpose on the airport layout plan. Next steps in such development will involve A, identifying entities to support development of a solar photovoltaic project at the identified site on business and economic terms that are favorable to the airport and the town, and B, complete the environmental mitigation process and cover the associated costs. That's what we would like.
There is a cost associated with this, is there not? With declining to enter the contract or to terminate? Are we terminating the technical services agreement? Is that the?
We are, and the cost is for the investment grade audit.
And that's 14,000 something?
14 or 15, yes. And we had budgeted, I think, 75.
75,000?
Yes.
Are there any questions or comments at this point?
Well, I fully support Tom's assessment of his staff. I think we've heard, Arthur and I heard quite a lot of information on the financing of this and how much it would cost. Very high known cost to construct this facility with unknown revenue stream in the future. Totally reliant on the state of Massachusetts or the federal government to support that. So I think it would be it also would crowd out a lot of other projects that the airport might have using money for solar rather than some other things which are are more important to develop the airport along those lines.
Any other comments? Mr. Gasparo?
I would just add to reiterate what Tom said. I think the bottom falling out of the SRECs is really what completely made it not really feasible or in our best interest. If there was, and I think Mr. Aronson really helped us quite a bit as a consultant to discover that, which we may not have in the fine print realized that without a designation as a brownfield, we weren't likely to get those credits, and without the credits, the feasibility, the numbers didn't really come close. I would have liked to have seen it gone another way, probably as all of us, but not a financial risk that I think it presents.
The language, do you have anything?
No, I
Anybody
just
else?
agree
Yeah.
totally that the financial risk was not something we should undertake.
The language I'm about to say may require some slight modification in terms of the context of the agreements that we have, but I would entertain a motion to terminate the technical audit agreement under Section 1A and approve the payment that's required of us to end the relationship with Honeywell, which is a payment, I believe, of about $14,800, but it's roughly in that. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Is there further discussion? All those in, how do you vote, Mr. Biscarin?
I vote aye.
Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Mrs. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It's unfortunate, but maybe we can do better in another realm. Have you given any indications to the other parties in this that this is coming?
We did tell them that this is, going to be discussed and did not look favorable. They elected not to attend the meeting. Noah's been in contact with them and told them this, we'll get the final word to them once we get it. So.
Okay, good. Thank you. Potential leases and contracts, Mr. Rafter.
We're still trying to get the Ultimate and United, so they're both pending. The first one is Weston Solutions, and that's just an increase related to the direct expenses incurred because of the additional work that they had to do on the FUD's relocation efforts. The next is Victor Brandon for $1,852,200,000. That's the AIP project for the North Ramp rehabilitation with 90% FAA reimbursement and 5% DOT. The next
So the cost to us of that is about $90,000.
Correct. The next is a contract with Cobo Utility for repairs to the perimeter fence that were damaged during the winter storm. You may recall we put this bid out and initially came in at about $130,000, and there was a misunderstanding of the specification. clarified that. It's now down to $49,000, and the majority of that should be covered under an insurance claim. We don't have the contract yet, but we'd like to request approval so that we do get the contract. The commissioners can sign that when it comes in. The next is a contract with MHQ for $94,829 for the purchase of 2 vehicles. One is a Ford E350 that is for operations. You may remember we purchased an operations pickup truck previously. It was a diesel piece of equipment. We're having issues with the high idling, so what we're going to do is move that into maintenance and put this new 350, which is going to be gas, into the operations department. And the other is an Explorer. It's a replacement for my vehicle. What's happening is the vehicle that Mr. Sylvia is driving has a lot of rust and rot on it. Our maintenance superintendent recommended that we reuse that somewhere else, so we're going to put that in, give it to security so they can perform the perimeters. They're currently sharing essentially a dump or a trash truck with the janitors to do perimeter checks. So I would get a new vehicle. My vehicle would go to Dave. Dave's vehicle will go to the security department. And the funding for that is available through a previous grant from the other operations vehicle that we didn't anticipate. We got funding from the state to fund that. So there's actually much more in the appropriation than is needed for it. The next is a contract with the Fire Truck Authority for $40,158. It's a 3-year contract for annual inspections and servicing of our fire trucks.
You said annual, not more than one time a year, or do they do that?
It's one time a year. They come in and do the inspection and service. Oh, twice? I'm sorry. I'm corrected. Twice.
Okay.
Is the total cost 40,000, or is the annual cost
For three
total cost?
years, right?
And it's for 2 vehicles or 3 vehicles, Dave? For 3 vehicles. So it's twice a year, 3 vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are there any questions?
I would make a motion to approve the leases, contracts, and agreements listed on Exhibit 1, accepting Ultimate Air and United Airlines.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Buscarin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Thank you. Fourth quarter financial report.
The fourth quarter financials are in your packet. These will be presented to the Board of Selectmen on the 19th. I think we had a very good year. It was the first year we did not require a subsidy, and we actually generated a slight profit. I will caution, though, that although the revenues were high this year, there were a couple of reasons for that. One, Jamie was very aggressive in getting some payments from the prior year, so the revenue came in this year, but it was actually due for the previous year. So there's a chunk of that. Also, because of the relocation effort and the FUDs, we're going to see a decrease in some of that revenue. We're going to be doing an abatement there. In order to cover that, though, we're also I'm drafting the final portion of the RFP for leasing land on Sun Island Road to offset some of those income reductions that we're going to see. So essentially what we have here is the revenues at $13.4 million. That's with all fuel in it. Then expenses of $11.7, which are slightly above last year but below budget, for a profit excluding debt of $1.6 million. And then once you back out the debt, we're down to about a $417,000 profit. Now, understanding that there is a significant chunk of change, $657,000, that is still in the fuel revolver, and that's, again, to insulate us from any spikes in the cost of fuel and things. So,
Are we leaving it there?
for now we are. We have already, for this year's budget, this 16 budget, we've already allocated a chunk of money from our retained earnings, but and I forget the exact numbers, we had allocated a significant portion of retained earnings for the 15 budget, but we only used a couple $100,000. So our retained earnings last year were about $1.8 million. We should have some additional retained earnings this year, which would bring the fund balance up over $2 million. Again, we have to wait till they're certified and find out. But considering the fact that last year we had a subsidy and a deficit, or a deficit to cover it and a subsidy to cover it, this year we have a $400,000 profit. We should hopefully see some decent retained earnings. Another piece of caution, too, though, is that you may recall the PFCs were not in the budget because we didn't have approval from FAA by town meeting. So this is a one-year anomaly where you're going to see the PFCs are a big plug, if you will, to the revenue. It's about $400 and some thousand. It will, for the actual 12-month period, be higher. It's just that there's about a 2 to 3 month lag time on some of these collections.
But they won't show up, they'll show up in 16, not
Yes.
15.
But they're also in the 16 budget,
Right.
where they weren't in the 15. So as I've told the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee before, we're working to get our budget where it's an actual viable working document. We've been managing to actual, and now we're just getting the two to align so that we have a good working budget document. And Jamie and staff have done a great job in creating new line items, moving things where they're supposed to go, and showing the accounting
Looking a
where it's
lot
supposed
cleaner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kudos on that. Any questions? All right, thank you. Moving along, we come to the Master Plan and Sustainability Program update.
Okay. The airport layout plan changes have been made based on the comments that were determined at the last commission meeting, the special commission meeting, and that was not supporting the infill between Taxiway Fox and the South Apron, not supporting the high-speed runoff or exit taxiway, runway 15, and now I'm drawing a blank on third. The realignment of the sub-taxiways. Those changes have been made. They've been submitted to FAA with the request that we do a modification of standards for those that don't meet the standards, and also reiterating the fact that we do have modification standards on one of those, which is the infill between Taxiway Fox and the South Apron. So those changes have been made and submitted to FAA. They're preparing the actual final master plan document that will be the bound document. There was discussion in a prior commission meeting about updating the advisory committee. They're preparing something to get that out shortly. The question came up whether or not we should have another advisory meeting and or another open house. I don't know that there's a large benefit to an open house. We're glad to do it if you'd like. It's up to the commission how you want to disseminate this and get the word out when the master plan is complete. Do we want to wait for the final ALP approval, wrap up the document, publish it, have it available? Do we want to have a public meeting on it? However, I'm looking for direction how you'd like to proceed with that.
How long will it take to get the final review? Because it's possible they could bounce some of the things we rejected back at us, could they not?
They could, and I asked Bill Richardson, I said, how does that work if, our commission doesn't support it? He said, well, they can say what they want and make comments, and, it's going to be approved the way they approve it. They might approve it with conditions or something of that nature. I don't know. I'm hoping it could only be a month to 6 week period, Dan, but the lady in the...
I guess my reaction is we shouldn't do it. I think we should go to the public because I think we sort of have to follow up on what we said we would do. I don't know if the other commission members agree with me, but I think we should wait until the whole thing is finalized before we do it.
And how would you like to do that to go to the public? Would you like to have it presented in a commission or a public forum?
I think we could do it at a commission meeting and just, because there's not that many radical changes. I mean, there's some, but not a huge number. And we could do it, allocate a portion of a commission meeting for it and just advertise it.
Okay. We'll get the
That would
word
be
out
my
that way.
reaction.
And also include the advisory board as far as the notifying them?
Yes,
Sure.
yeah. Okay. We'll proceed with that
Does
accordingly.
that make sense to everybody?
Yes, I don't think having a public meeting, considering the interest that we get on
Right.
it every month, it's might be.
Yeah, it'd be
overkill.
good to sort of wrap up for us too, to have it summarized again, I think. So, okay, let's do that.
And the final document will be made available on the website, in the library, different locations too. So I'm sure it's going to be a pretty thick document. Related to the master plan also, we had received the copy of the white paper on rates and charges with various recommendations. It was, I will say, limited. It was not very specific. It did provide some specificity, but not any high level of detail. So there are some things that we may want to consider, though, and one of them was acting quickly on increasing the customer facility charge on the rental cars. And if you compare that to other airports, which in our the benchmarking portion, we are low. The fee was instituted in 2005 and has not been adjusted since then. So it's been $2 since 2005, and I'm going to look to Jamie to see if I'm wrong on any of that. But there are a number of other airports out there that are charging in the $4 to $4.50 range too. So
I know that's an airport charge, but people are still complaining about the high rates to get off Nantucket to go to Hyannis. And I wonder if that's going to be a backlash for us.
No, this is for the rental car.
If you
Oh, I
rent
thought
a
you
car,
said PFC.
no.
Oh, sorry.
CFC.
CFC, okay. Get
No,
the years
sorry.
adjusted. Excuse me, sorry.
No, it's for rental cars for
Okay.
when they get on island and rent the vehicle.
Okay, sorry
Which
about that.
There are some fees associated with that.
Mr. Gasparo, do you want to propose something to us?
I would suggest, as you most of you know, I think I've raised this issue for a couple of years and was told to wait for the financial analysis and the white paper, and it came back and said the same thing. I think that it would be appropriate to hold a public hearing to consider revising that from $2 to $4, and since it hasn't been changed in 10 years, and it be in line with other airports. I think that we can get more into it at the public hearing, but I think that the rental cars more than get the benefit of that charge from the use of all the various parking lots, facilities, parking systems, and so I would support having a public hearing.
Is there any objection?
No.
What kind of increase would that be to the airport? In other words, how much more revenue is there if you doubled that fee?
We make approximately $80-some thousand a year, so that would be a doubling of that.
Okay. A small matter, but
But as well as it's small, but as Arthur mentioned, I mean, when you look at what they're utilizing, my first take was that they're just utilizing the area where they're designated for specific parking. The way they operate, because they have such a high turnover, they bring vehicles back and utilize our commercial parking lot. So they're using the Scheiten-Bachmann system, our famous parking system, as well as overflow parking in the stone lot that is by our fuel farm, and beyond that, behind the hangars, when they really get full, they put cars there. So they're operating out of 4 different areas where we have security, fencing, lighting, a number of costs associated with it. So I'll be honest with you, I've debated this with Commissioner Gasparo, and I can see the light.
You have seen the light.
Well, the white paper raised
Now we have to
it.
pay for the light.
The benchmarking study had raised it a while ago, and the other piece I would say, thinking of that, is also we've made dedicated spots at the FBO. We've made we try to facilitate the rental.
Plus, they have all
vehicles.
that other space where they park.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what I'm
the
saying.
stone
They're
lot,
using
so
4 and 5 different locations.
I think it would be good.
So is $2 enough?
Well, I think we want to be fair to the benchmarking and not go beyond. I mean, we could discuss that at the public hearing, but my thought was that to be in line with other airports as
Yeah.
well. I think Hyannis
We
Is
tried,
Hyannis
we were
450?
trying, Jamie tried to get them today. We didn't get the feedback.
Well, let's
Have that for the next.
have that for the next.
Yeah, we'll get
My
it.
sense from renting there is that's what I think it is.
I think it may be too, but, and
So-
if it is, should we put that?
Well, that's, up to the commission. I
I'll
thought
be in
that
Hyannis Thursday, I'll find out.
we can discuss that, I think, at the.
Well, I
well,
think
it'd be
we
good
have to have a
advertise What we
proposed.
want it to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy with 4, given, that it's but if other commissioners wanted more
$40,000.
at 5,
No,
At 50 cents.
Oh, I'm sorry.
50
50
cents
cents
would
would be
get
20,000,
20,000.
so it'd be round 100.
okay, 450, match Hyannis.
If
Just like
Hyannis
the
is
PS.
450, let's go to 450.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that agreeable to
Agreeable,
everybody?
definitely.
Andrea, you okay with that?
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not remembering now whether we mentioned it or not, but one of the things that was actually approved by the commission back in April, but was not included clearly in the rates and charges, and now is the lost token fee.
Oh, yes. I apologize, I thought I
And so
mentioned.
we need to make clear to people what the fee is going to be.
It's now
$20,
$20
isn't it?
per
Yeah,
lost
that's what you
token.
said.
And if I may, on a related tangent, the structure for the exit lane parking control is in. It was supposed to be scheduled for repairs today. Little challenge with the company, but they're now scheduled to be here Thursday to install.
All right, how many lost tokens do we
A lot.
see?
I forget the exact numbers, Dan, but it's a very high rate.
Are they lost or just misplaced?
Or purposefully?
That's what I mean. I was being kind.
All of the above. We are hearing a number of stories, but it's a very unique system. That's why when we write the RFP, we're looking to convert over to the paper ticket with a barcode reading, not a mag stripe, but a barcode. The technology is such now that it's advanced far enough that it'll be durable. That's the initial reason for having a chip coin was the durability. The problem is each coin has a little,
Will the system be able to
Rating.
tell us when the card was issued?
yes.
Good.
Before
Mr.
we
Gasparo, yes.
move on, we sort of skipped right to but back to the ALP if I could quick.
Sure. Quickly.
I know. Well, I note that the with respect to the stub taxiways, that we're still showing the removal of the pavement, and at least of the one that's in our packet. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. My understanding would be that we wouldn't show.
Oh, are you talking
I'm talking about
Delta?
Yep.
That's not, okay, that's another issue. That's a 90-degree turn issue. That's known as a hot spot, and there was confusion in there. This section right here?
No. All of the stubs.
Oh, the stubs, yeah.
They're all shown still. So we're showing where we go straight across right now, removing and adding. I thought that our last discussion was that
You're right. That's
we
not
weren't
supposed to be
going to
there.
that we were going to leave that
That's
as
right.
is.
That's right.
That is
So
good
if we could bring
catch.
that
We'll
to
get that.
Jacob's attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the master plan?
No.
We have two grant acceptances. One of them is for the Mass DOT grant AIP number 62 for the reconstruction of a portion of the North Apron. We've already approved the contract for that with Victor Brandon. And our approval of the grant acceptance will make sure we get the 5% from the state. So I would entertain a motion to accept DOT grant AIP number 62
I'll make that motion.
in the amount of $105,750.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Toppin?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The second is the addition to the agenda, but obviously we've already approved this, and not the grant per se, but the purchase and so on. This is for FAA grant AIP number 63 for the tools and equipment for the new ARF vehicle, the new fire truck, and for the new snow blower. Total of those comes to the grant comes to $723,600.
I move acceptance.
Second.
Just a question, there will be also a DOT
Portion.
to this as well, in due
Yes.
course, yes. Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? How do you vote, Mr. Biscarin?
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Tom, your report, please.
Okay. Under projects, the security project final inspection was completed. We have the record drawings and are closing that
I'm
out.
having a little trouble hearing, Tom.
Okay.
You want to, yeah, you've got,
Slide
I had the microphone. I thought that
No.
maybe this was
yeah,
better like this.
okay, that's fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. that's
Okay.
better.
Thank you.
The security project, again, we received the record drawings. They're closing that project out. We received good news from the state. We had a meeting with them that they're going to come in and do a closed-circuit TV camera project for us. They're going to add additional cameras to cover more of the airport, the ends of the runways, the fuel farm, the snow building, a number of areas that we have we can't see right now. The big part of it, though, is they're also going to replace or improve the system where it will be a computer-based program so that we can give access to people that need to see certain areas. For example, the control tower right now cannot see the north ramp. With this project and through a simple computer, through the internet access, we can give them the ability to see the ends of the runway, the north ramp, whatever they have to. It's also extremely a major improvement in the quality of the cameras and the fact that you essentially, with proper access, you could see it on your phone. You could access the cameras. The demonstration they did was they showed us the parking lot in Vancouver Airport and zoomed in, and we saw somebody's license plate. I mean, very, very high quality, and the state's going to pay for it all, so that's great. That's the best part of it.
I was going to say, that's very good news.
North Apron Rehab, we have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for the 21st at 11 o'clock. The Air Traffic Control Tower kickoff meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. The mobile tower has been erected. It's pretty interesting looking. If you haven't seen it, I'll try to get pictures around. But
It looks like it could blow over on the next.
well, it's
that's
supposed to be
fine.
secure, and they're working. They have a number of weeks yet to finish the wiring and all those types of things, but they're working evenings tonight and tomorrow. As I mentioned earlier, the parking housing is in and should be repaired by Thursday. On the RFP side, the second round of bids were received for the snow removal equipment, and the apparent low bidder is Kodiak North American at $697,200. The second bidder was $610 higher, so a difference of $610 on a $697,000 job. That's good.
This is the.
Should be good specs.
The grant we are now
Yes,
approving.
that was the grant you just approved, yes. Again, fence repairs, you just approve that too. The tug bid is out, and bids are due in August 18th. And we're working with the town on looking at the request for proposals that we're going to be putting out for the airport gas. The town is going to be losing its primary fueling station at the fire department when that moves. So the thought was that we would include an alternative in our RFP that whoever were to put in for the operation of the airport gas would also submit an alternative proposal to handle the fueling needs of the town. It would address some of our concerns as well as the town's, and could be financially beneficial to us. So we're working closely with the
Also, that
town.
will include some reference to the other businesses that are being run.
Yes,
on the
correct.
premises.
Not just fuel. On the operation side of the house, you may have heard that on July 19th, it was a Sunday weekend, we ran out of fuel. It was caused by a prior week's cancellation of the freight boat that spiraled into something. We got through most of the weekend, but we ran out. And when I say we ran out, we maintain a certain reserve for emergencies, for med flights and things like that. But we stopped selling it Sunday night, and we're back up and running Monday morning. And I've worked with World Fuel to make sure that never happens again. The good news is that when we replenished it, we took that week over 140,000 gallons of fuel, and our farm only holds 100,000 gallons. So we were selling it just as fast as we were getting it in. You may have heard in the news or saw that there was a car fire on Nobodere Beach on Wednesday the 29th, right off the end of the runway. It was difficult, a very difficult fire to get to. Our operations personnel responded with one of our ARF trucks. The maintenance and firefighters responded as well. We ran a hose under the fence. The Nantucket Fire Department had personnel on the beach. They also came with their vehicle up next to ours in the airport fence. It was good in the sense nobody got injured, number one, but it also demonstrated how we work very well together. The fire department used additional hose to put onto our line to extend it down to the car fire. They also supplied our vehicle with additional water. It was along the lines of what we did during the full-scale exercise, where they come in and back us up, and we worked with them. So it was a very good team effort from our people and the fire department. So it worked well. We do have a critique scheduled and also a tabletop, because it brought home the fact that, what if that were an aircraft? So we're going to run a scenario based on that. And we've already met briefly with the fire department. We're scheduling the tabletop exercise for that, too.
Excuse me for interrupting, but one thing I learned in connection with that was that if the fire is outside the fence, whether it be a vehicle or a plane, we're not the primary responder.
The way the regulation is, as I understand it, inside the fence we are required to respond, and we're responsible for it. Outside the fence within 5 miles, excuse me, we're required to respond if requested, but it is not our responsibility. So
for an aircraft.
Yes, for an aircraft accident.
Yeah.
So, but again, we rely on each other. So it was very difficult to get to. We saw a way we could get to it, and that's why we responded and provided the assistance. I'm going to go through a couple others, and then I have one I need to give a bit of a PowerPoint on so folks understand what I'm talking about. We issued last week what's called Airport Standard Instructions, one of our SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures, for how to deal with 2 aircraft on the ground at the same time on a north ramp, such as a JetBlue, and we're working to improve that situation, although it apparently didn't get out there yet because it didn't work too well today. We had a wildlife event that, again, I think demonstrated tremendous teamwork. As you may recall, we've been trying to remove 2 deer from within the fence line. We had USDA out on several occasions trying to get them. We had night operations. One of our operations officers took out 1 deer. There were actually 3 originally, so there were 2 more that we've been trying to get rid of for a number of months. And they were spotted last week doing a security perimeter check. Maintenance, security, Noah, Dave, a number of folks responded. They brushed the deer and took out 2 deer, so we should be deer-free inside the perimeter, which is a big plus.
When you say take out, did you shoot them?
Yes, and all the permits are there. Everything was done according to what we're supposed to, and it's a good thing because they create a very serious safety hazard to flights. So. But again, a great team effort and a number of hours spent and a lot of work, but they did a good job. You may have seen, and it's in your packet, a press release that we issued regarding the air traffic control tower, the app that has been created for iPhones and for Androids, and our website with the flight tracking capability is also in there. One thing that's starting to get on our radar screen, and that is the question with regard to T-hangars. The T-hanger lease expires in November of 2018, and there are some folks that are considering buying T-hangers, and they would like to know, what's going to happen. I don't want to buy a T-hanger and 2 or 3 years be thrown out. So it's something that we're going to review, and I'll make a recommendation to the commission on. In your packet, I believe we have the email that I sent to town council regarding question of a land issue, and I'd like to just try to go through this as briefly as I can, but I think it's important that all the commissioners are aware of what we're doing and what the issue is. At a recent Board of Selectmen meeting, there was a request from the planning office to essentially purchase or whatever
To sell.
to sell or transfer a piece of land that it claims in the information that it was pursuant to Article 99 of 2011 at the annual town meeting and Article 13 of 2012 at the special town meeting. When you go back and look at where this piece of land is, can we go to the next one, Dave? And those articles, well, yeah, go to the slide up on this one. Scroll down on this one. The area that they're, keep going all the way to, there's another map. Okay, right there. This is essentially, oh, my pointer here. Get you acquainted with it. This is essentially where the Thompson House is. This is the Sandy Roberts, formerly known as Divine property. Our fence line is right in here. The ocean is down here. So this is a piece of property that they're looking to transfer to Miss Roberts. And what the confusion is in this section. This is known as Boulevard, or the Boulevard, Boulevard Avenue, whatever. This is Everett Street. This is Russell Street. Now, can we go on to the articles, Dave? So the articles that were referenced, and there appears to be a conflict between the narrative and the map in one article, and then from one article to another conflict. Now, I want to see the article for 98. Articles 98 and 99 of the 2011 ATM are compatible type articles, and I just did segments of it. But 98 is for the acquisition of paper streets, and you can see the language here says, the boulevard from the western side of Everett Street to the western lot line of Assessor Map 88, Parcel 31. The subsequent article, 99, is to convey boulevard from the western side of Russell Street to the western lot of Assessor Map 88. Now, can we go to the map, Dave? I'm sorry for... I put all these together. I should have done it separately. Map for 98, 99. So the map that's associated with 98 and 99 includes the entire piece along Boulevard here. Now again, this is the Roberts property, this is the Thompson House. So what it says is they took all of this, if you will, and then for the yard sale piece though, it goes from Russell this way. So the taking was from Everett all the way to the east, and then the yard sale,
The authorization
to sell went from Russell to the east. So this is the section that essentially is in question, and the subsequent article, if we can go to 111, Dave, back to the articles, in the same town meeting, Article 111 was to convey that piece of real estate to the airport. So this is the language from Article 111, and it says transfer boulevard from the western sideline of Everett to the western sideline of Russell. That's that small piece in front of the Roberts property. And again, this was supposed to be conveyed to the airport. So my question to town council was, I had two questions. I said, it appears to be a conflict between the language and the map, because in Article 98 and 99, you're taking one section, but then you're only allowed to transfer or convey a portion of that, and subsequently 111 then says that other small piece is supposed to go to the airport. So I asked for clarification on that, and quite frankly, it's not an easy thing to get your arms around when you look at all the documents. That's why I wanted to brief you tonight on it. I had a number of conversations today with Town Council John Giorgio, and I think we're all on the same page of understanding what the questions are and what the issues are. The question is, how can this piece of property that was supposed to be transferred or conveyed to the airport be now sold at a yard sale? So we're looking for clarification, cleanup, and try to figure out exactly what's what. And I just wanted to make the commission aware of that, because it is an issue that, quite frankly, it's just cloudy right now.
And from the airport from the airport standpoint, what is the benefit of raising this question?
I think it's an ownership. It has to do with whether or not, because there are a number of other parcels that were subsequently supposed to be transferred to the airport. So there's that question. What, honestly, where it kind of drew something of interest was recently with the car fire and access to that area. Mr. Barada talked about beach access for personnel and things. The fire department, when they came around through Maddox-Sham Valley Road, couldn't get any further than essentially the Roberts driveway. We let them in our fence, and that they came in through Perimeter Road and then down through there. It was probably a better thing that they came in on our side of the fence.
How did the car ever get there? It
It
started
was
on fire.
a beach. Yeah.
It was on the beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, I don't know if there's any significant benefit other than the fact that, I'd be concerned with some of the yard sale properties that are being conveyed out there or sold if they could either expand or build a secondary or tertiary dwelling on it, because that's one thing we don't want, the encroachment of additional development in the proximity of the runway.
And the beach access is, while not directly in the airport's interest, is in the town's interest.
Right. So I just wanted to make the commissioners aware of it, trying to get to the bottom of it. And it's also the beginning of, or continuing effort to just clean up who owns what parcels. There's a number of parcels that on the town GIS are identified as Town of Nantucket, and there's a number that are Airport Commission, and they all make up the airport. Well, eventually they should all come and be under the control of the Airport Commission. And that is critical with regard to what's known as Exhibit A. When we sign off on these grant assurances, one of the grant assurances indicates that we have to essentially pursue clear title to all of the parcels that make up the ownership or the airport. So that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, just so you're aware of it. Sorry to take that length, but it's a little complicated, and I want to make sure everybody understood when we're talking about that, what's going on.
Any questions?
No,
How's
go
that
ahead.
going to be resolved? In other words,
I'm waiting to hear from town council what their opinion is. It could be that if there's conflicting information, that it may require another vote at another town meeting. I don't know. I don't know what the resolution is.
The basic issue is, what you're saying is, though, even though it was shown by the map, the wording of those articles does not permit the yard sale of the piece of boulevard south of Miss Roberts' property.
That's correct.
That's my understanding, yes. But as we've heard before, the other article that says it was supposed to be conveyed to the airport, if there's language in there, it says the
Yeah,
Board
but
of Selectmen.
that's really two different, I would see it as two different issues. One is they have it's an indication of intent and why it was left out of the wording in the other article.
Well, yeah, there was no reference to Article 111, which in fact gave the Airport Commission, or was supposed to convey the property to the Airport Commission. And now they want to do a land, or a yard sale of the land. So,
And that's not happened yet. It's still in the process?
it's supposed to be heard again on the 19th at the Board of Selectmen meeting. when this was initially brought up, Selectman Atherton questioned some things regarding the easement and so on. And, when we looked into it a little further, I looked and said, wait a minute, the references to those articles had to do with some property that was the Roberts property that was essentially down near our airport property. Lo and behold, that section of it was supposed to become part of the airport.
Now, the fence that was constructed that did not allow the fire department to come, is that on this property or something else, and is that illegal
Can you,
fence, do you know?
Dave, can
or
you go
not?
back to the
original map.
original one, the highlighted one? And I just want to show you, so
Okay.
it's the answer to that is both. Yeah, the first one, the one that has the highlighted,
Looks like a survey plan.
In
Yeah.
yellow thin,
first document.
Sorry, David.
No, it's a good question.
The
Real estate one.
document.
There it is. Okay, so
Zoom in.
Okay, no, we don't have that here.
So the fire department response came down Maddox-Sham Valley, oops. Lost it. Yeah, right there, okay. They came down Maddox-Sham Valley Road, down Russell, past the Thompson House here. And this is as far as they could get, because there's already been a split rail fence constructed here. This is the Roberts driveway, and I forget what's over here. Now, this, again, I don't think it's in dispute, but if this weren't transferred and this weren't, the fire truck could have gotten probably down into this area. Instead, they came through our fence line and had to go around and down here. Again, it was closer to the actual fire, so all in all, it was probably beneficial. But they had to get, we had to give them access through the gate and so on and so forth. But they could have made it, if this was unimpeded, they could have gotten there without our access. So it was beneficial for them to be in here, closer proximity to the actual fire. But again, if this was available, they could have taken their tanker right up to here. And it would have been easier to deploy personnel down the bank from here.
Okay.
Okay, statistics. I want to go through the statistics, but also in the handout there should be an update on the latest fuel sales. I'll go through that at the end. Operations are down 7.6% month over month. Year to date down 8.7%. Enplanements are continuing to fall as well. Excuse me one second. There's some other detail I want to share with you on that. If I can locate it. In any case, I apologize, I don't have it with me, but although the enplanements are down, I did a comparison of the fiscal year to date, or full fiscal year of 15 versus 14. And interesting note was that the seasonal operators were all up and the year-round operators were down. So that's where the primary drop is.
How about, do we know Boston versus the...
I didn't have a chance to break that down yet, but JetBlue, Delta, United, American are all up, some more than others. So what we're seeing, or what it appears, is that our peak is getting stronger, but our off-season is dropping. So our efforts are going to be to continue expand the season, and again try to encourage better year-round service. And in that regard, I've put in a request for travel to another one of the speed dating for airlines meetings so we can pitch the year-round service. The good news is, though, the jet fuel gallons sold were up 13% for the month, and year-to-date up 1.04%. Avgas was down 34%, and year-to-date down 6.3. Freight was up 3% month over month and down year-to-date 2.4. You'll see in the July one, David caught an error that one of our tenants was reporting. He noticed that the numbers appeared to be about 1/4 or so of what they normally were reporting. They said, oh yeah, we made a mistake, so they corrected that. Noise complaints in June were up, down. It was 19 versus 44. NOAA has a full report in there. One of the largest generators of noise complaints was...
But his report is for July.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I think he had one for both.
There's one for
June
June,
and
but there's
July.
also
Yeah.
one for
There's
July.
one for July, right.
The thing that stands out the most, I think, is, and I believe this term may have been coined on Facebook or whatever, but the pot copter created a lot of issues. And it was a combination, I believe, of the Army, the DEA, and the Massachusetts State Police. And it was, flying aerial surveillance to trying to eradicate marijuana on the island. I spoke to the operators, I believe that
Well, we're
they're
selling it,
with the
aren't we?
Army.
We're trying to eradicate it, and then we're going to start.
Well, you have to
selling
keep it legal in certain areas. This was for the illegal activities. But their approach this year seemed to be a little different than previous years, and there was a lot of low flying over densely populated areas. And just when I say the phone was off the hook, Noah's voicemail box was full almost immediately. The stories that were relayed to us were, animals killing animals and horses kicking down barns and kids trampling kids. It really was bad.
We have no control whatsoever over.
No, but I spoke to the
That's
tower manager, and I also spoke to the operator of the helicopter, and I told them, I said, you guys got to do a better job or you're going to have a PR nightmare. I said, this is not the way to go about it. I understand you have a mission to do. I said, but you're really causing a lot of problems rather than solving them. So if they come back, hopefully they will heed our warning, or at least try to work with us. The July jet fuel was up 13%, and avgas was down 3%. I also have...
It's
results.
interesting, that's in the context of the 4th of July being down, right? The 4th of July weekend for jet fuel was down.
Yes, but overall July was up. And the good news is, Pops weekend that just passed, the jet fuel, we pumped 72,506 gallons as opposed to last year's 63,330, so we pumped an additional 11,176 gallons of jet fuel in the four-day period.
Almost 20%.
And again, the rest of the good news is the sales were up 2.5% over last Pops weekend too. So that's moving in the right direction. The personnel report, in your packet, I have an org chart change that we made. I think I briefed most of you. We eliminated the superintendent FBO position. We will have 2 superintendents, one in maintenance and one operations, but we are going to have an operation or an FBO supervisor, and we have that job posting up right now and available internally.
Are you trying to do that more in-house?
Yes, everything will be done in-house, hopefully, no additional head count, and if we can do that, we should have enough funding available to fill the position of the maintenance supervisor as well. That was left empty when John Grangrade was promoted to superintendent, but we held that in as a position so that when funding became available, we could backfill it. Also, just a note, it's the season or time of the season when a lot of our seasonal staff are returning to school, and we've lost 2 or 3 operations seasonal staff. Our maintenance department has done a tremendous job helping out in the operations side of the house, but it's a struggle the last 2 weeks of August, first week in September, when we lose a high percentage of our seasonal personnel, and everybody just has to jump in and do whatever. And thank God we have a great staff to do it.
Excuse me, do we ever try to get them to, extend their contract, or do we have contracts with them? Because the story always has been that my grandmother's got sick, somebody's died, so
Oh,
they're
they're-
all leaving early for
No,
college
they
when they
tell
don't
us,
have to.
they
you.
tell us up front,
Okay,
most
so you
of
know.
them. We had a couple that were a little other circumstances this year.
Right.
But most of them give us the date right up front.
Okay, so you're aware of it.
And it's just very difficult. It's hard to get seasonal help like everyone else. I'm
Right,
sure,
yeah.
the entire restaurant industry is the same way here, so. But the ones that we do have, and what we do is we carry some folks on, we keep them on payroll, but we use them accordingly for such things as Columbus Day or even Stroll Weekend. We'll have one or two that we can, call back if they're available. They're ready to go. So, the other item I have, request for travel. As I mentioned, there's a airline meeting, the speed dating with airlines. It's the Sixel Conference, which is October 20th through 22nd, and I believe it's in Arkansas or somewhere. I don't know.
Northwest Arkansas. Know it well.
The benefit of this particular meeting is the timing. Airlines make their schedules anywhere from 4 to 6 or even more months out. So if we can get in front of them now, the hope is that they can start considering us for their seasonal schedule next year. And the goal will be to expand the season from the carriers that don't have that, as well as trying to promote, again, as we have been, the year-round service, even if it be through Hyannis, to try to get some better connectivity to the national system. I also have a request for the Massachusetts Airport Managers Association Conference, which is the 26th through the 29th of September in Brewster, Mass. My plan was to send 2 people. I may go for a one-day if I can, but if any commissioners are interested too, it's a very good conference. You get to see what's going on statewide and meet some of the folks. So if you have any interest, please let me know, and we can accommodate
What's the
that.
date of that again?
The Massachusetts Airport Managers Association, the
20th,
dates,
29th.
26th,
28th to 29th,
Oh.
yeah. 28th and 29th.
of September. And that concludes my report.
May I have a motion to approve Mr. Rafter's travel requests, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Is there any discussion? How do you vote, Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Commissioners' comments?
None?
I do, because I'm going on the emplanements that you were commenting on, that they're down. And having tried to make reservations on Cape Air, they have very limited flights coming in from Hyannis to Nantucket. And as I said to the person, it doesn't look like you're interested in servicing us to go to Hyannis. It was the last one leaves Hyannis at 3:28. Cape Island Air has gone up from $99 to $140 to $165 round trip, same day travel. I just don't think that's encouraging people to use the planes, some of the airport. And then the town is servicing or having parking for the ferries that we don't have parking for the airport, which I'm not suggesting that they do, but they're encouraging everybody not to use planes. And so I don't know.
It is an uphill battle. I was interviewed today by the INM about a number of items, and they discussed some of this. And as I told them, I said, the ferry is part of growth and technology. It's an advancement, and the airlines need to consider that as part of their business model and look and see if they need to maybe look at a different market or two. Hyannis is no longer, if you will, the milk run for the airlines.
Yeah.
However, I don't know that that's a reason to jack up the prices, but
Especially
I
in
think,
the face of falling fuel prices.
well, and you get to a certain point, and that spells competition with a big, capital letters. So that's what we have to do, is try to see how far. Again, we're in a very, very unique situation. Every airport's unique, but this is we've got a lot of unique characteristics here, from the island side of things, the size of the island, the 9-seat airplane that is very few and far between in the entire country. So
There are very few places where ground transportation competes with air transportation in terms of timing, but we happen to be one of them, if not the only one. Do you have any comments, Andrea, Ms. Planzer?
No, I don't.
Mr. Gasparo?
I have two. I was just wondering where the RFP for the new parking system stood.
I have the beginnings of that done. It's when I pulled up the original one that was done, I can't use that. So I received 2 or 3 others from in the industry, and I'm in the process of putting that together.
Thank you. And the other question I had was, I was wondering if we received our findings from the Part 139 study yet.
We did we get the letter officially?
Yeah, it's been closed out.
Yeah, there were 2.
You mean the inspection?
Yeah, the inspection, yeah.
There were 2 items, and they were corrected immediately or shortly thereafter. So it was.
Yeah, I think it should be shared with the commission.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I just like to see good news.
Okay.
That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. I have several comments, actually. In the context of the fire on the car fire on the beach, I have suggested that the addition of a gate only for people, not for vehicles, on the beach side of the fence be considered, because some of our people ended up having to go all the way around to get to the beach, and so that's one thing. The second thing is Sunday afternoon. I haven't experienced Sunday afternoon in the terminal in quite some time. I think to say it was a bit of a pig's breakfast is kind, because there were delays on certain flights. I know at least the passengers on one JetBlue flight were cleared for security and then asked to leave the hold room because there wasn't room for whoever else was being run through there. And there was just mass confusion. And finally one of the TSA people came out and sort of tried to steer people on who was being cleared, what flights were being cleared. But I've suggested to Mr. Rafter that we consider in next year's budget a couple of, quote, ambassadors, people who stand out there and direct traffic and give information, just because those Sunday afternoons, particularly if the weather's a little bad, which it was, I think, in New York on Sunday, and there were long delays on some of the flights. Unfortunately, it's not our fault, but it ends up making us look bad and making Nantucket look bad. So I think if we can do something to ameliorate that, it wouldn't be very expensive and very difficult, and go a long way to assuaging people. I was also pleased, and I say that somewhat sarcastically, but I was pleased to see the number of comments from the public in the packet. Not because they necessarily were good comments, but because it shows that people are interested and are watching what we're doing, and it means that we have to be as careful as we can in educating people about what it is we're doing, particularly from the fee perspective. Some of them one takes with a bit of a grain of salt, but some of them are quite well thought through and articulate. So again, I would like to see more of the articulate comments, good and negative.
I apologize. I didn't include one of the very good ones for one of our seasonals too.
I would like to, for the record, state that in connection with the matter that's referred to on the agenda under executive session, paragraph B, the airport has retained special counsel to represent it in this matter. The firm that we have retained is Anderson and Krieger, which is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, They have both aviation experience and municipal experience. And the partner that is working with us is a fellow named David Mackey, who was formerly chief counsel for Massport. And the real estate person who was working with him was formerly real estate counsel for Massport. So I think it's important that public be made aware of that. And my final thing is that Mr. Rafter came to me last week and said he'd been asked to put his name in for the board of directors of the American Association of Airport Executives, known as AAAE.
Northeast chapter.
Northeast chapter. And would I be agreeable to that? And I said I was agreeable, but I thought before it was finalized to run it by the commission to make sure there were no concerns or objections.
How much time might that take, Tom?
It's essentially, I attend the meetings, the conferences where the meetings are held now. They would just be subsidizing some of that. So it's about anywhere from 2 to 4 meetings, and you can participate by phone too. So.
I think it's great recognition.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Consider yourself
Thank you. Supported.
supported.
Well done.
That's all I have. Is there public comment at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session